You've been acting for quite some time.
Yeah.
What was it originally that made you want to get into acting?
Oh, great question. My granny, who was originally from England, she grew up during the Second World War there, and she really loved acting. She really wanted to be an actor, actually, but that wasn't something that could happen for her at that time. And I think that from a very young age, I was super influenced by her and actually by my other grandmother, who's an artist and a painter. And my family have always been great patrons of the arts. We don't have a ton of people who've made it their living, but we have always grown up with reading plays and reading poetry and singing songs together. So I think that, yeah, that's probably where I got a lot of this like permission to be this ridiculous performer clown person that I am.
Well, what's cool is that when you take something that's a passion like that and something that you already have skill or talent for, and then you go to a school like the Canadian Film Centre Actors Conservatory, which is very highly respected, you can sort of refine your skills. Can you talk to me about how you refined your skills and what was it that gave you that extra kick to take your acting to the next level?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I started very young. I started when I was 10 years old. I booked my first like lead in a series that shot in Edinburgh, Scotland, and it was sort of like I just had to jump into a lot of learning really, really quickly, and it was a wonderful experience for me. And then, kind of throughout my teens, I was on set a lot, and what I started doing was more theater in my early 20s. And what I loved about theater was kind of the permission that it gave me to play all kinds of different characters, complicated, fun, angry, silly, messy women. And what the Film Center then did, I graduated from there, I guess, almost 2 years ago now. What it then gave me the permission to do was take what I had learned in my theater training and my theater experience and practice doing that on film. And so it was a real like 6 months of getting to collaborate with independent filmmakers, with people who are really coming up in the Canadian film industry, and kind of really honing like what stories matter to me in film and TV and what kind of stories I want to be a part of making. And so I got to work with some really great, talented directors and people who are greats in the industry already, and then people who are like some very exciting, fresh, new voices. So it was a great opportunity to kind of practice and fail. You know, we don't get that opportunity a lot because so much of the time as actors we're auditioning, and there's kind of this pressure to like to book the job. And so a lot of the time that can be kind of a risk averse environment to be in. And so the Film Center just like meant that we could really stretch each other and maybe play in areas we don't usually get to play in, get to play different kinds of parts. Yeah, so it was a great experience. It was really fun.
And definitely a great chapter in the story of your acting career. Another one that's about to happen, the film Clouds, that's about to come to Disney Plus. Now, this one is interesting because it's going to be not only a very historic chapter in your career, but also within Disney Plus. I believe it's the first acquisition that they're having that's going to be released simultaneously in all of their markets, which is, some would say a very historic piece to be involved with. So I want to dive into that one. The movie Clouds, the trailer was released within the past couple of weeks. What will you remember most when you look back on your time working with this project, Clouds?
It honestly makes me emotional just thinking about it. It was when you're working on a project that is so much about human connectivity and what it means to really live your life to the fullest. That permeates into everything on set. And so it just felt like there were so many memorable moments because people were required to be so vulnerable. And I think, it's a special project when it's not just the actors who are, being moved. There was also this real sense of like from the crew, this real sense of working on something that was really touching them and was very, very moving to be a part of as like a connected group on set. So I think I'll just really remember what it felt like to be, yeah, surrounded by that kind of energy, that kind of connection.
The movie Clouds, based on the memoir Fly a Little Higher, when you take on a piece like this where it's someone's life story, you had mentioned that it brings a little extra gravity to that role. For you personally, knowing it is based on the experience of a person and portraying someone that actually went through these moments, how do you prepare yourself mentally going into a role like that? And what does that feel like to have that extra bit of motivation for a piece like this?
Well, Justin Baldoni, who directed the project, who's a wonderful, very warm, loving human. He made a documentary about Zach Sobiech before Zach passed away and about his family. And so when I was auditioning for the project, I watched that doc. And I was pretty struck, I gotta say, by how much I saw of myself in Ali Sobiech, who is the human, the wonderful woman that I got to play. So that was kind of cool to be like, oh, I actually see a lot of the ways that I can empathize with this person. And I got to meet her in real life. Actually, after we filmed, I got to meet her in December. And yeah, everybody had kind of said how similar we were in terms of, I guess, kind of just our spirits. And it was true. Like when I met her, we hit it off, and so it was really special to like connect with this person. That was kind of a first for me to get to play somebody who is, and there was a lot of, I would say, like pressure because of that. You know, you want to make sure that you do justice to all the different parts because it's somebody's life, and that's not a, you know, it's a complicated thing. And I think that the book, what's so great about the book that Laura Sobiech wrote about their family's experience with, you know, with Zach and with saying goodbye to him and with going through cancer, it was very honest. And I really wanted to make sure in the little part that I played in that there was honesty and you know, it was a huge challenge, I think, for their family, and she didn't shy away from that in the book. So I think it was important to kind of make sure that you're showing all sides of what the family's experiencing.
Yeah, and I can tell just by the way that you are speaking about this project as you look back on it, that it seems like this film had a real impact on you, that you had a real connection with this role and with this project. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely. It's not every day that you get to work on something that feels that meaningful. And because of my own experiences with loss and with grief, and you know, it really meant a lot to be able to kind of put that experience and those feelings into a piece that hopefully, you know, especially because it's now going to be so accessible to people, you know, allows people to kind of see themselves in that and work through their own grief process and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's not every day that you get to do something like that.
The film was shot in Montreal. When you get to film, you know, in your home country like that, do you take any extra pride in being able to represent for Canada when you take part in these worldwide feature releases that are shot right in your home country?
Absolutely. I love how you guys say Montreal. It's like, it's hilarious.
How would we say it differently?
I believe most Canadians would say Montreal, which
Montreal.
Yeah, but it was so funny having all the Americans up, you know, and everybody being like Montreal. Yeah, Montreal's a great, and again, I'm Anglo, so you know the French Montrealers would have a completely different way of speaking completely different language. But yeah, it was really great to get to be there and to you know, Canadian crews are made up of like some incredibly talented, very, very hardworking, wonderful people. And so it's really great when we get to show off, you know, what we can do and get to connect with people. And Yeah, I loved being in Montreal. I have some family history there, so I got to spend a lot of time like walking around graveyards and you know, hanging out with some of my ancestors. So yeah, it was a lovely experience getting to just hang out there.
Well, Vivian, as we begin to wind down this interview, we are hitting the final five questions for you.
All right.
Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. Number one, who do you talk with the most right now?
My sister. We're isolating together, and yeah, it's given us a lot of opportunity to connect with each other in a really special way.
What is the item you use most every day?
Probably my water bottle.
Hydrating's definitely a good thing to do. When did you know that you wanted to pursue being an actor?
When I was 3 years old and I had memorized the entire audiobook of Winnie the Pooh stories, and I recited it out loud, and I got a lot of really great feedback, lots of like oohs and ahs from my family, and I think probably then I was hooked.
Where is your dream vacation?
Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia, Canada.
Wow. I'm not familiar. Can you explain to me what that is like?
It's it's a tiny little island off the east coast of Canada, and it's sort of like if you've heard of have you heard of PEI, like Prince Edward Island? A lot of Americans.
I'm unfamiliar.
Okay. Well, it's like this little kind of quiet, like it's just sort of untouched by a lot of the rest of the world, and it's really peaceful, and I feel like I'm like the most calm and myself there. It's like oceans and beaches and lots of hiking and walks, and yeah.
That sounds really relaxing. I could definitely see wanting to try and have a nice vacation there.
Absolutely.
Final question, how do you define success?
Success for me is the feeling of freedom.
That's definitely a great answer. No, like that's so true. I mean, being able to have the freedom to make your own choices, freedom to, live your life how you want to, that's amazing. Well, Vivian, thank you so much for your time today. This 15 minutes blew by quickly.
Yeah, it did.
It was a lot of fun getting to chat with you, and congratulations on all the success. Congratulations on Clouds. We really look forward to seeing that coming out, as well as the future projects that we know you're going to have coming as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. It was really fun.